Blueprints demonstrates very well the uniqueness of video game storytelling. Because in Blueprints, the plot is a puzzle, and the ending isn't something you're given, it's something you earn. It's not told to you, it is built. In this video, I'll talk about how video games can demonstrate the difference between plot and story, how games use mystery to motivate, and how the satisfaction of solving something can sometimes be rivaled by the mystery of not knowing. I will also be detailing my own journey through Blueprints. This is in some ways a travel log following my naive attempts to find the true ending of this game. There will, of course, be spoilers, not just for the story, but also the puzzles, because as you'll soon see, often they are one and the same. If you do join me down this rabbit hole, make sure that you are prepared for what you may find, because even if you think you know the ending to Blueprints, you don't. The more you see, the less you know, because the truth is that Blueprints never ends.
Like, when people put themselves forth as game critics, it's like their job to understand the game. They don't have to like the game or, agree with what it's trying to do, but they need to understand what it's trying to do, right? If you don't understand what a game is trying to do, you shouldn't criticize it. You should know, if you're a critic, you should know when you get it and know when you don't. If you don't have that faculty, it's a problem.
Jonathan Blow, director of Braid and The Witness, has long insisted that some players don't get it, and that those players shouldn't be critiquing games. It's one of the reasons that he's earned a bit of a reputation for being an elitist. But underneath the inflammatory comments that he has been known to make on this subject, there is a serious question about how games communicate and who they allow in. Because The Witness doesn't just want to be observed, it wants to be solved. And if you don't solve it, if you can't, entire parts of the experience remain inaccessible. That makes games very different from books or films, where an ending arrives no matter how you interpret the story. Some games won't end unless you understand, not from observation, but interaction. And that raises a tricky question. Can we talk meaningfully about a game's story if we never reach it? Maybe. But you can't separate the meaning from the mechanics, not in games like this. If the story is revealed through puzzles, then comprehension isn't optional, it's the form. This is the tension between critique and comprehension, and it's why literary theory hasn't quite caught up with video games. I've talked about authorial intent and death of the author quite a bit in previous videos because they're helpful tools, especially for games like Silent Hill 2, which are intended to be a cinematic experience. But for games like The Witness, the audience experience requires more from you. Sometimes you're not stuck because it's a hard boss that's kicking your ass, but because the game needs a correct answer to continue. It's a knowledge issue, a comprehension gate. There is an answer, and you just haven't found it yet. The classic example is the detective game. The Ace Attorney series, the return of the Obra Dinn, the Golden Idol games, these games all require you to input an answer deduced from your interpretation of events. If you fail to determine how all the evidence lines up and can't determine who done it, then you do not finish the game. Can you ignore the intent of the artist if ignoring it means you don't proceed? Zork is a game that lets you type anything to deal with a given situation, but only correct inputs progress the story. It is an illusion of choice. While players do have freedom to choose how they interact with a game, there are rules and restrictions that are set by the developer and can't be ignored. In my last video on this topic, I condemned explained videos which attempt to establish canon in stories that are intended to be ambiguous. I'd previously said that the story is not a riddle to be solved, but it is fun and satisfying to attempt to decipher a text like you would a riddle. And it is undeniably disappointing when you form a narrative in your head only for the artists themselves to tell you, no.
One of the recurrent images in your films is of electricity arcing, is of light bulbs crackling on, and you have a recurrent motif of like 2 points and something arcing between them. And it seems to me that this somehow relates to what you think about the synaptic arcs in our brain. When you talk about TM, when you talk about these things, you talk about making connections. It seems to me that that's what that recurrent visual motif is about. And I know you hate saying what things mean in your films, but am I right in thinking that that's at least in the right area?
No. And that's why the mystery genre is so engaging. It gives the audience members an active role. You are not just observing, you are interacting. It places the audience in the role of the detective. Authorial intent and death of the author, these are literary theories. And there is debate between academics whether these theories can be applied to video games in any meaningful way. Because not only can the plot sometimes be a puzzle that is solved by the player, it can also be chosen. And the choices that a player makes can sometimes go against what a game designer intends. It's also true, despite what Jonathan Blow says, that developers sometimes don't know their own work as well as they think they do. And that's why having fresh eyes on a project is so important. You can be too close to see the full picture. The artist doesn't always see the whole shape of their work, and sometimes even the creator can be blind to how players will engage with a puzzle because inspiration can come from anywhere. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes mixes detective logic with surreal symbolism. Its puzzles require narrative deduction, but it withholds answers of meaning. It is a puzzle game that is rich with ambiguity. The presentation of Lorelei and the Laser Eyes is integral to the overall experience. And this is what renowned critic Susan Sontag meant when she argued for an analysis of form over content. It's also what Dan Olson from Folding Ideas meant when he criticized analyses of Annihilation as being too focused on what the narrative implications of the ending were, rather than what it was trying to say. The narrative is a piece of the puzzle that you are asked to solve, but these other questions of form don't bar progression in the same way. They're open to interpretation. But they could have been puzzles. Simogo, the team behind Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, could have put a riddle in there requiring you to answer what the game means. Any game could. The decision not to is the decision most worth analyzing. Why is it that some puzzles require a correct answer while others are open to interpretation? Jonathan Blow has some pretty strong opinions about story in video games.
Well, I don't like story in games at all, very much.
He does go on to clarify that he means that game stories often fail when they mimic other mediums, relying too much on cutscenes and dialogue instead of gameplay. He has also clarified that when he says story, he really means plot, because the story is more than the narrative of the game. It incorporates all aspects of the game.
Okay, so there's, story is a word that means a lot of things. Like if you read a book or watch a movie, there are many elements that you would call story. There's the plot, which is the sequence of events that happen. But there's other things. There's setting, where it takes place. There's mood, which is how it feels. There's characters.
Writer Alan Moore said on the subject, "Always remember that the plot is not the story. It's just what gets you from one end of the story to the other." Blow has said that The Witness once had more of a narrative, but it was toned down over time and reduced to audio recordings in the open world. But only a small number of these recordings have actual narrative content. Most of them instead are intended to communicate theme. The plot that is in The Witness is not explicitly tied to the puzzles themselves. You can finish the game without any knowledge of what the island is or why you're there, but solving the toughest challenges in The Witness does help to reveal this. In the main journey of The Witness, you go to each area to fire a beam at the top of a mountain, and eventually that allows you to enter an elevator, which whizzes you back to the beginning while all the puzzles reset. But the full plot isn't revealed from the puzzles on the panels, but the puzzles hidden in plain sight. Solving the puzzle in the tutorial area is the key to unlocking the secret ending. But in order to open the door, you need to broaden your perspective. This ending reveals that The Witness is a simulation, a virtual reality intended to provoke revelation. And that is why you are here on the island, and that is what the island is. This second secret ending is a live-action scene from the perspective of someone waking up from this virtual reality. But the person waking can't help to refer back to the virtual world and the revelations they received. They can't stop seeing the signs. They're everywhere. But that's just what happens in the game. The series of events from beginning to end. There are still a lot of questions, the main one being, why is it called The Witness? Well, that is a question not of plot, but story, and the story is complex. Blueprints' plot, at least at first glance, is simple. You play as Simon, and at the start of the game you inherit Mount Holly estate from your great-uncle Herbert Sinclair, at least provisionally. In order to properly inherit the manor, you must enter the 46th room, but the house has only 45 rooms, and they are different every day and chosen by you from a random selection. There are no narrative twists and turns in your journey to enter room 46. Your objective remains the same, but you may encounter on your way a good number of other mysteries. There are red letters, which suggests a blackmail plot. There is a fortune teller in the rumpus room who gives cryptic clues about the letters, but they don't seem to have any relevance to your objective, room 46. In order to enter room 46, you need to descend below the manor, where you'll find, among other things, 8 ominous doors. Even as you come to understand the process that is necessary to earn your inheritance, there are still a number of loose ends. Secrets, hiding secrets, hiding secrets. As you finally make your way inside room 46, you receive a cutscene. A book is read to you by Simon's mother, Mary. The book is titled The Red Prince. It's the same book found in the nursery and the master bedroom. The picture book details a very simple story about a boy that likes the color red. Given that the book is in the nursery and Mary is Simon's mother, it seems that the book is about Simon, you, the player character. It is a gift from your mother and is simply evidence of her love. But Simon doesn't seem to have any obvious preference for the color red. A note elsewhere suggests that the ending was changed because the original was too political. This changed ending is seemingly the one read to you in the room 46 cutscene.
He couldn't see beyond the red shade he was aware. He never caught a glimpse of the world I had to share.
But as the credits roll, you may find yourself, like me, thinking, that can't be it, can it? There's still so much I don't know. What is the significance of this book and the changed political ending? At first glance, the story of the Red Prince seems simple. A boy obsessed with one color learns to see another. If you take red and blue literally, you might reach for American political binaries, red states, blue states, or broader ideological readings like communism versus liberalism, but these colors mean different things in different places. The symbolism isn't fixed. The Red Prince is about refusing to see anything outside your own perspective. Many people have taken this as evidence that this is a story about fascism. But if the story is more than just its content, if it's also form, structure, action, then is there really enough in how Blueprints, the game, has been told so far to justify that reading? I don't think so. The truth is that Blueprints does not have a simple plot. It has a very complex plot. It is layered, or rather, it spirals. In an interview, Tonda Ross, the creator of Blueprints, suggested that you could finish the game right there and be satisfied.
Really? I typically, if I love a game, I will typically stop at credits because I want to leave some more meat on that bone.
Oh, sure.
So I'm like, it's like, I really want my second playthrough to have something else. So definitely don't feel guilty if you want to stop there.
It is an ending, just as the ending where you whiz back to the beginning of The Witness is an ending. You have finished the game. You solved the puzzles and you entered room 46. Good job, you win. But it is the other puzzles outside the main objective that hides the true story of Blueprints. And these puzzles don't just reveal the story, they test your understanding of the plot. Both Jonathan Blow and Tonda Ross have cited the Myst series as influences. Myst is a fascinating series. The original game was released in 1993 and became the best-selling PC game for almost a decade. Let that sink in. But despite its success, there were remarkably few imitators trying to cash in on the Myst formula. Now, independent developers who grew up with the series have been inspired to put their own spin on the formula. Just like Outer Wilds, for example, in Myst, you need to come to grips with unknown technology and alien geography. In Riven, you need to understand the culture of the world, multiple cultures. You need to understand the history, language, the hierarchy of power and opposing factions. You need to understand all of these things to complete Riven. The influence on Blueprints is clear. Myst even has a Blue Prince and a Red Prince. Two books you find early on have men trapped in them. They're brothers. They both want to be released but implore you to not speak to the other. You have a choice, Red Prince or Blueprints. Which is good and which is evil? As you progress through the game and ultimately make your choice about which brother to release, you will learn that actually both brothers are evil. There is no correct answer. But if you dig deeper into the game and uncover its most well-hidden secrets, you will find that there is a third option. And this third option reveals an entirely new world. It extends the plot, adds new characters, and even sets up the sequel, Riven. But you wouldn't know any of that if you released the brother in the blue or the red book and uninstalled the game after the credits rolled. Steam achievements show that only 30.8% of players managed to see this content in the remake. The same is true for The Witness. If you ascended the mountain, rode the elevator, and then shut the game off, you would miss out on the game's most impactful moments. And the same is also true for Blueprints. Getting to room 46 is just the beginning. After the credits, I went looking for answers. The fortune teller had hinted at the importance of the red letters, and soon I realized collecting them was filling out an 8-slot icon in the menu. The completionist in me was feeling very pleased. I had also come to understand the secret about the paintings in the estate. Each room had 2. The words always used the same letters with the exception of one outlier: face and ace, F. The letters plotted on the manor's layout formed a code. If we count small gates, 8 dates, crack 8 safes, 8 letters, 8 safes, 8 dates, 8 everything. Eventually, though, the trail ran cold, and so I returned to room 46 in the hopes that there would be some new cutscene the second time around. No new cutscene, but I was able to explore the room. There was a blue crown on the table, crown of blueprints. It was the first time the game had acknowledged the pun of the title, mysterious. The crown offered a buff to drafting, but nothing more. Nearby was a map with 8 pins, each tied to a realm. I also found a note featuring the 8 sealed doors, and with it, a key, a sanctum key, which let me unlock one of them. Inside was a massive sigil made of concentric rings, rearrangeable, but I didn't have the solution. And so I kept digging. I unlocked new parts of the manor: an outer chamber, a mine, a server room, a strange orchard. Each location offered a buff to my day-to-day drafting, but no definitive answers. The orchard was especially strange. Entry was barred by a small gate, which was cracked with a date. But I didn't find a red letter. Instead, there was a small gold ornament like the ones used to hold the gems in the other safes. But where had the gem gone, and where was the letter? A book in the bookshop caught my eye, a new clue, written by Simon's mother Mary. It was a story about a detective, and it seemed to mock the futility of his endless searching, but it also seemed to hide a deeper significance. There were real clues here, not for the detective, for me. Each clue led to another, but instead of clarity, the spiral just deepened. In my journey to find more of the sanctum keys, I was able to glean more about the world of blueprints. The land in which Mount Holly resided was once part of a nation known as Arinda Ares. But Arinda Ares was no more. An insurrection had occurred, and the king was overthrown by a cruel despot, a red prince. But there were some discrepancies in the details which allowed for some moral ambiguity. Some sources indicated that the king of Arinda Ares was not well liked because he was too nice to the poor, which doesn't really seem to justify insurrection. But other sources revealed another side to the story. A great number of innocent people were slaughtered in retaliation for the insurrection, which was a tactic that resulted in neighboring realms offering to assist in the conflict, Arch Ares and Nuance. It is likely that this is a case of history being written by the victors, but I don't think the enlisting of Nuance is a coincidence. After the war, the land was divided and Fen Ares was born. Black flags were torn down, and in their place, the color red. Arinda Ares was lost to time, remembered only in relics buried beneath the estate. The manor was built atop its bones, a history literally paved over. It is revealed that Mary was a member of a rebel faction called the Children of Blackwater. They had stolen the crown of the Red Prince, and the jewels of the crown were the subject of the blackmail letters. But if Mary was successful, where is she now? I found a book which explained the meaning behind the sigils. Each ring in the circular glyphs represented an aspect of a realm: weather, government, transportation, national color. These sigils were flags, and cracking the code required a comprehensive understanding of the world of blueprints, the culture, history, geography, technology, and language, just like Riven. I collected all the information I could and eventually solved all of the sigils, but there were gaps. There was a moat used to signify a tribal society, but there were no tribal realms. Was this not a complete map? Or is it more likely that before Fen Ares, even before Arinda Ares, the land around Mount Holly had a different name? Most strikingly, there were no realms that used the color blue. And if the Red Prince is not a fictional character, but a real historical figure, who is the Blue Prince? Solving all 8 sigils didn't offer immediate answers, just some short travelogues from Simon's great uncle. But I remembered. 8 realms, 8 months. I used the knowledge I had gained from the travelogues and traced a route, and then something clicked. A hidden panel opened. Inside was Herbert Sinclair's last will and testament. It revealed that along with Mount Holly, he had also left Simon the manuscripts of his mother's books, a new clue, and the Red Prince. But where were they? After painstakingly combing the estate for sanctum keys and studying the world to decode the sigils, I had finally found a dead end. Herbert tells us that he hopes that in due time and in the natural order of things that we will be content with how little that our mother has left us. But wait, the natural order of things, that phrase echoed something that Herbert had written earlier. I'd previously solved the puzzle in the tomb by following the order indicated by stained glass in the chapel, but if Herbert disagreed with that order, there must be an alternative. The names of the sculpted figures aren't written on the statues themselves, but I was able to create a list from information gathered around the estate. Reordering them to match Herbert's order finally triggered the reward, my true inheritance. But they weren't answers, just more riddles, more loops in the spiral, questions on questions. Does it never end? I read the manuscript from the top, studying each line and interrogating every possibility. My journey was long and difficult. Eventually, I solved the new clues and discovered a scepter to go with my crown, and I had a lead. Steady is the scepter. Deadly is the stone. Heavy is the crown. Ready is the throne. I had found a book called The Curse of Blackbridge, the namesake of Blackbridge Grotto, which hides the ruins of Arinda and the throne room floor plan. A book about a thief who steals a mysterious box carved with ancient symbols. He smashes the box and finds a stone effigy, but he is cursed. Deadly is the stone. Reading it unlocked the ability to purchase the cursed coffer from the gift shop. Doing so caused a mysterious box to appear in the shrine carved with ancient symbols. I smashed it open, took the effigy, and so was cursed.
Steady is the scepter.
This is the second ending of Blueprints. This is your true inheritance. There is a note in the tomb that seems to confirm this.
Deadly is the stone.
Your mother is not from House Sinclair or House Epson, but instead Gred. She is Arajan royalty, therefore, so are you.
Heavy is the crown.
The throne of the Blue Prince. The Blue Prince is real, and it is you.
Ready is the throne.
Your true inheritance is not Mount Holly or the manuscripts left by your mother. It is the throne. And your claim to the throne isn't symbolic, it's your birthright. But is it right? You are just a boy who solves puzzles. What business is it of yours to rule a nation? Mount Holly is still on Fen Ares' land. To take it back would mean war. Who is to say you would make a better ruler than the current ruler of Fen Ares? Are you better equipped to govern a nation because you discovered your birthright through a series of increasingly difficult riddles? Does that make you worthy of power? No one else had access to the manor. No one else could even play. The systems were built for you and you alone. Is solving a maze proof of merit, of destiny, or nepotism? It's not just blood that determines your path in Blueprints, it's luck. Blueprints is shaped by randomness, the rooms you get, the puzzles you see, the items that appear. A different player might never encounter the clues that I did, or might find them in a completely different order. Some will never reach room 46, others will reach it by chance without much difficulty. The path is chaotic, just like life. Your mother reveals in a letter her decision to found a new realm rather than bring Arinda Ares back to power. She wants to break free from the past and embrace a new perspective. But is it any different to what the Red Prince did? Is the effigy required to ascend the throne because it is of Arajan origin, or is it because by ascending the throne you are cursed to one day be overthrown by some other prince who decides that they don't very much care for the color blue? I still don't think this is a story about fascism. Not really. The pieces are there, but they never quite lock into place. For you, maybe it does, but not for me. Because Blueprints isn't a story that is hidden. It's a story you assemble through the puzzles, through your persistence. It is the structure built over the course of your journey. It is architecture, form, and content. Although I had ascended the throne and earned my birthright, I was still unsatisfied. There had to be more that I had overlooked. I looked in my menu and remembered that there was still an infuriating empty space where the 8th red letter should be. Where was it? While chasing the last of the clues, I found a door. Blue. Just a set of blue doors waiting. I didn't know it at the time, but it was behind those blue doors that I found the true ending of Blueprints. I inherited a legacy, and I had earned my birthright, but there were still too many unknowns. I'd found answers, but also more questions. I wasn't satisfied, and so I kept searching. The blue doors led me into a chamber with a puzzle similar to those found in the parlor room, but this one didn't ask for a solution. It asked for a decision. Is your journey over? Or are there more secrets to uncover? You are presented with 2 chests, One ends the game, the other dares you to keep going, and if you've made it this far, I think I know which one you opened. It's not over until you have that 8th red letter and that empty space in your menu is filled and you feel complete. The chest creaks open, but the box is empty. Or is it? There on the lid of the chest is an ominous spiral, the same pattern as the constellation for 100 stars, the spiral of stars. The pattern is everywhere. Investor needed, denoted in verse anagrams. When I had earned enough trophies, the gift shop unlocked a final upgrade, the blue tents. It allowed me to view a note which gave me a clue for each room. More clues, more questions, doors within doors. I followed the thread. Eventually I found myself in an entirely new hidden location. Blueprints. Surely this was it. The 8th letter and the true ending. The room was a portal into a mirror version of the estate, a maze within a maze. I persevered. Like a man possessed, I scrawled a map and discovered the intended path which led me to the core, the mirror version of room 46. There, I found the last will and testament of the Baroness Lorelei, Simon's great-grandmother. The document revealed that the person who found the blueprint version of room 46 would inherit Mount Holly estate. And so it seems Mount Holly was not your great-uncle's to give. I had not truly earned my inheritance, but now I had. It had all come full circle. I found room 46 and Mount Holly was mine. But why did it feel so unsatisfying? Surely there had to be more. Where was the 8th letter? One last box opened to reveal a single word. Blue. And then the trail ran cold. I picked apart every remaining loose end. I looked online to see if there was any more to find, but even the most dedicated members of the community were as lost as I was. But there is something. There must be. The 8th letter must be somewhere. Unless it's not. A Blue Tents memo references the number 8 as a symbol for infinity, death, and the unknowable. Are the red letters warnings? Or are they, like the red memos, lies? Data miners have found little, except one file, Day 46, in Eclipse. The term in Eclipse appears in the ballroom, the classroom as well. I spent some time trying to crack the mystery and regularly checked in with the community to see if there had been any developments, but so far there are only questions, no answers. There's still one possibility. There's an arcade game in the manor. It's currently inaccessible, but is set to be added in a future patch. Could it be the next stage in the journey? Or just a diversion? No one knows. Blueprints draws heavy inspiration from a book called Maze, Solve the World's Most Challenging Puzzle by Christopher Manson. Manson even contributed the artwork in the gallery. Like Blueprints, it's about navigating a surreal house, room by room. The objective: find room 45. Maze caused a sensation in 1985, offering $10,000 to whoever solved its secrets. 12 people came close, and they were able to split the money. But even now, decades after, no one has fully cracked it. Maze was inspired by another book called Masquerade by Kit Williams. The book hid the location of a real jeweled golden hair somewhere in Britain. The book is featured in The Secret of Psalm 46, a lecture given by Brian Moriarty that is in The Witness. The lecture argues that art should not bury its meaning, and that the most profound works aren't deep because they have secrets, but because their complexity evokes awe. Ironic, because the lecture is one of The Witness's most hidden secrets. Steam achievements show that only 5.3% of players have been able to access it. While playing Blueprints, I thought a lot about the secret of Psalm 46. In it, Moriarty discusses one of his goals, to see a total eclipse of the sun, and that became my goal as well in Blueprints. Was it a coincidence? The secret of Psalm 46, room 46? But I was just drawing absurd parallels. It's awe that births conspiracy. It is normal to search for easy answers. We invent meaning, order into chaos, but often reality is not so easy to pin down. An eclipse slowly forms throughout Moriarty's lecture, forms a symbol not unlike the line puzzles seen around the island, and sure enough, another puzzle solved. The secret of Psalm 46, another one checked off the list, but no. Not everything is a puzzle that demands a solution. Reality is not so easy to pin down. There are a number of interpretations of The Witness that have been discussed here on YouTube. Electron Dance's video, The Unbearable Now, argues that The Witness is a Zen koan. A koan is kind of like an anti-riddle, the most famous being, what is the sound of one hand clapping? An audio recording in The Witness speaks of koans.
There are 1,700 such conundrums in the Zen repertoire, and their common aim is to induce a kind of intellectual catastrophe, a sudden jump, which lifts the individual out of the domain of words and reason into a direct, non-mediated experience known as Satori.
Rather than provide answers, koans are intended to sow doubt. They are ego checks. The result is not a eureka moment. It's not a discovery. It's the realization that maybe you've got it all wrong. I found a lot of value in Zen philosophy in my life. I have a book of koans. My favorite tells of a Zen master that is approached by their student. The Zen master holds a flag, and the student asks them, "Is the flag moving, or is it the wind?" And the master replies, "It is your mind." Enlightenment in Zen isn't an answer. It's the dissolution of the question. Satisfaction through emptiness, sunyata. Zen is an important component of The Witness. When you whiz back in the elevator, you hear lines from the Diamond Sutra, an important Buddhist text that suggests enlightenment is achieved by detaching from the self and embracing non-duality. Perspective is an illusion, and ultimate reality is interconnected. To ask why we are here, who we are, or what we will be is to lose sight of this ultimate truth. Because the past doesn't exist, neither does the future, not yet. All there is now. And that's why meditation is so important to Zen philosophy. Meditation is an act of observation, of witnessing. The Gemsbok approaches The Witness differently. Zen philosophy is one perspective that is discussed in the game, but there are many others, and they aren't depicted as flawed in comparison. They're just alternate perspectives. Rather than a message about the importance of non-duality, Gemsbok suggests that The Witness is a deconstruction, one idea explored through a variety of perspectives. It is about perspective itself. Specifically, Gemsbok argues that The Witness is about changes in perspective provoked by science and philosophy, but I think there is a pretty glaring omission there. Art. Art illuminates in much the same way, and that's what I think about when I play The Witness, the unique way that video games, as art, can reshape how we see the world. The virtual island is not just a narrative element, it is the form in which the game is presented, the medium. The Witness is a virtual world. In fact, that's what makes it powerful. It doesn't just explore perspective in its content, it makes you live it through the form. The puzzles don't just show you a truth, they force you to change how you see. That's perspective in action. The ending of The Witness features a man waking up from virtual reality. The Gemsbok discusses how the man isn't able to translate the wisdom that he had attained because life is not line puzzles. and so it is futile to apply these lessons so literally. I agree, because The Witness doesn't argue for one truth. It shows how every perspective is just a lens, an application of hermeneutics. Even though The Witness is a game about perspectives, it is one perspective. Jonathan Blows. A curated experience, a virtual island where everything is intentional. All art is a communication of perspective, but any one perspective in isolation is lacking. A story may speak volumes to some, but for others fail to ring true. Stories frequently impart to us that the good guy always wins and that hard work and dedication is rewarded, but reality is not that simple. And it's not just story. Philosophy, science. Science is built on theories which change as our tools and perspectives evolve. There are no final answers because there will always be more questions. Richard Feynman says as much in a video featured in The Witness. He says,
The way I think of what we're doing is we're exploring, we're trying to find out as much as we can about the world. People say to me, are you looking for the ultimate laws of physics? No, I'm not. I'm just looking to find out more about the world. And if it turns out there is a simple ultimate law that explains everything, so be it. That would be very nice to discover. If it turns out it's like an onion with millions of layers and we're just sick and tired of looking at the layers, then that's the way it is.
it isn't certainty that Feynman values, it's curiosity. Zen isn't an argument against curiosity, it teaches that there is comfort in not knowing. Because you will never know the ultimate truth. That is the ultimate truth. It is impossible. Not all questions demand answers. That is why the game is called The Witness and not The Expert. Witnessing is different from knowing. It is merely an act of interpretation. In the end, the only perspective that truly matters in The Witness is the player's. Because the average player won't sit and watch The Secret of Psalm 46. They might not even discover the puzzles outside the panels or the secret ending. The story and the meaning found in that story is ultimately up to the player. This is also true for blueprints. At the time of writing this, 41.1% of blueprints players have reached Room 46, but only 7% have solved the sigils beyond the sanctum doors. For players, the content itself changes based on which station you decide to get off the train. The player who stops after Room 46 hasn't just interpreted the game differently. They've played a fundamentally different game. That's the power of interactivity, and that's what makes video games so difficult to pin down with traditional literary theory. Not just because they require inputs to progress, but because they involve choice. In books and films, paths do not diverge. Meaning emerges through the interpretation of one fixed text. In games like Blueprints, endings are not just interpreted, they're chosen. The narrative branches and the structure of the experience changes depending on how deep down the rabbit hole you're willing to go. You can stop at the inheritance, you can claim the throne, you can keep searching forever, or you can uninstall after 90 minutes because you had a terrible run of RNG and refund the game on Steam. All of those are endings, all of them are their own unique stories, and which one becomes your story is up to you. Every interpretation of art is valid, because it is personal to the person experiencing it, but it is equally valid to have no interpretation at all, to understand that there may be a correct answer and you don't know what it is. It is to embrace the unknown and find comfort in the knowledge that you will never have all the answers. That's not failure, that's humility. It's the acceptance that some things are unknowable, and that's its own kind of peace. The other chest, beyond the blue doors, doesn't give you a cutscene. It gives you a book. One last gift from your mother. The Blue Prince. It reads,
There was a blue prince who sat a blue throne. He had a blue crown made of sapphires and a blue castle made of stone. The prince had a love for all things blue. It's the only true colour in my humble view. He couldn't stand the tint of a hallway or a shop. He couldn't stand the shade of trees the green rooms brought. He seldom talked to others, for they rarely shared his view. He never went to town, nor saw the flags they flew. And do you know which game the prince instead would play? The one that made him happy whenever skies were grey. A game that he had played in the house and on the grounds. And maybe you can guess from the clues that we have found. It was a game full of rooms and the stories that we climb, about a house full of lies and the truth that one prince finds. And as you, my reader, might already assume, this game is quite near you, in fact, in this same room. A game about you and the plans that you made, about a blue prince and his blue prince, the blue game we just played.
This, for me, is the true ending of Blueprints. It is the ending that reveals the most about the game's story. Blueprints is about blueprints. It is about inheritance, birthright. In Herbert's letter found at the beginning of the game, he quotes Simon's grandmother, "Don't go where the path leads. Abandon the path and go where you want it to lead." It is the architecture of you. It is about discovering your identity and purpose. It's about searching for who you're meant to be and realizing there is no one plan, no perfect blueprint, no right way to live or to rule. Utopia is a fallacy. It doesn't exist. We can endeavor to learn more about the world and be curious, but the ultimate truth is that we will never truly know because reality is not so easy to pin down. And the titles and deeds that you will accumulate in life, they will not go with you in death. They will be inherited, passed on to someone else. And while your successes may follow in your footsteps, they may choose to forge their own path. What matters isn't what throne you claim or what secrets you uncover. It's that you were unsatisfied with what you had and chose to keep looking. Herbert's second letter that you receive after reaching room 46 asks you if you will be content to stop there or if you will look to the horizon and wonder what dreams lie ahead. That choice is left to you. And that's why Blueprints doesn't end with a final cutscene. It ends when you stop searching. There are still many mysteries in Blueprints left unsolved, and I will often think about other leads or clues that I could follow for more answers, but for now, my search has concluded. For me, the true ending of Blueprints is found in two beautiful words. The end. Thank you so much to my beautiful patrons. Thank you to IRANDMS, Bender, Wastoid, Blemkin, and a very special thank you to Laker and Choking on Razors. As well, of course, to all the lovely people you see here. These videos take a very long time to make, and YouTube doesn't offer a lot of incentive to make videos in the way that I do them. It would be a much better idea to smash out weekly videos that require less research and detail, but this kind of thing is where I think my strengths lie, and so this is what I'm gonna make. If you liked this video and you'd like to see more, please do consider supporting the Patreon. Donating on there gives me a lot more leeway to take the time to make quality videos rather than chase the algorithm, and it allows me to allocate more time to this whole YouTube gig I've found myself in, and less time finding money elsewhere. I'm still studying a psychology degree, and I'm nowhere near the level to be able to do this full time, but I'm really enjoying making videos, so I hope you stick around for the ride. Subscribe for more if this was your thing. I've got a story analysis video on Claire Obscure planned, as well as the last part of the Elden Ring DLC guide, which has been a long time coming. I'll be prioritizing those projects as soon as I finish my final exams for this semester, which are happening right now. I'm crazy for spending so much time on this while that's been going on, but hey, the choices I made were my own. I built this house. Wherever you are in the world that you're building for yourself, please have a great day.